Gentlemen, we need an aircraft capable of maintaining an anti-submarine patrol over any area of the North Atlantic which may be assigned us by NATO. It must be able to reach the patrol area quickly, stay on station at low altitude, and return to base with adequate fuel reserves. It must be able to do this while carrying more than 2 tons of submarine detection and navigation equipment and more than 4 tons of new underwater attack weapons. Notes from a meeting held between the Royal Canadian Air Force and Canadair Limited, Montreal, 3 years previously. Now the plan was a reality. First, a British passenger airliner had been redesigned to become a submarine hunter and killer. To give the plane the great range needed at low altitude, jet power plants had been replaced by turbo-compound engines. In the nose section, room had been found for airborne radar. The tail section had been altered to house secret detection apparatus. The under fuselage had been modified to carry 4 tons of torpedoes and other tactical weapons. Starting as a polished mahogany model, she would be known as the CL-28 until her actual test flight, 725 scheduled days later. In the wind tunnel, the engineers had first to find out what effect the modifications would have on the flying characteristics of the aircraft. A man-made wind, a wooden model, a few tufts of ordinary wool, and the behavior of an aircraft over the North Atlantic can be seen and measured in the laboratory. Computers processing thousands of calculations in a few seconds sort out a mathematical pattern of the performance of the plane to be. For stress engineers like Eric Aubry, answers to the ever-present problem, have I taken every contingency into account? Vertical load, side load, deflection, material fatigue, skin stress, so many things to be considered.
Hi, Leo.
Hello, Eric. I got the drawings for the nose structure here. You get those final loads yet?
Yes, I've got them right here.
Good. How do we make out?
Well, in taxiing, we've got 70,000 pounds acting up here, although this is a pretty severe condition.
I see.
Although most of the load will be taken by the bulkhead around here.
Well, that's no great problem. Now, how about the side loads due to severe braking?
Oh, well, we've got a side load transmitted through this bearing here. I think we'd better consider the design of this bearing pretty carefully, since all the undercarriage loads go through it. Also, we shall get some skin buckling around this corner here.
That better not be permanent, eh?
No, no, no. It'll go back all right. Now, this value for the side load, it's about 30,000 pounds. It's a pretty severe condition, but I don't think we'll have any...
From the designers, drawings by the tens of thousands for the use of the men who were planning how to build the plane.
Curb the forward fuselage.
We have sub-assembly jigs in here, including the pilot's windshield, sub-assembly jigs here, including the bottom panel and the radome, and the main structure jig, the pickup jig, and the installation position. What do you think of it?
Looks all right. I think I'd like to see a few more part racks down in here.
Well, we've considered that, and according to the process charts, this should be quite satisfactory.
Tell me, Gaston, how do I get that assembly out of that jig?
The top of this jig comes off Herb. Then the crane will lift the component overhead and over the wing panel assembly jig, over the main jig for the wing complete, to reach the joining position here.
It's big and complicated, eh, Gaston? Now, when do I get the sub-assembly drawings for my section?
On the full-scale wooden mock-up, Leo Cox was checking his drawings. How wide could the landing gear support bearing actually be? Would the landing gear assembly fit the space allocated? Would the aluminum skin around the escape hatch adjust to loads by flexing? Mock-ups help the designer to see how his ideas come off the flat drawing paper into three-dimensional structures. To the aircrew representatives, the aircraft is intended to be a flying workplace and compact home for 24 hours at a time. The mock-up lets them see in life size exactly how the real plane will look when it is finished. They can try out on the flight deck the accessibility and convenience of the working areas and speak for the hundreds of aircrew who will actually live in the finished aircraft. And Herbie Bren, foreman of the forward fuselage section, can see for the first time the size of the part he's going to be responsible for building. All materials and components for the aircraft itself are obtained from the North American continent, as far as possible within Canada. Hydraulic actuators from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, rivets from Gananoque, O-rings from St. Therese, electrical connectors from Toronto, instruments from Montreal. From the procurement division, word of the CL-28 goes out to manufacturers and suppliers all over the country.
Hi, Don.
Morning, Ed.
What's your problem?
Design Engineering just released this drawing of the windshield frame.
What's it look like?
They're asking for magnesium sand casting.
Oh, boy.
It's a highly stressed, open-faced frame, built up of thin walls and webs. I think it'll be a real problem for any foundry.
Yes, I can see that. We haven't got too much time on this, Don. Do you think a Canadian foundry can handle this one?
Well, none of them have tried it as yet. The Robert Mitchell people down the road could tackle it. They're nearby, and we'll need a lot of liaison on this job.
Well, I suggest you go down there and bring one of our engineering fellows with you. And I'd like to know how you make out.
Fine.
And by the way, Don, I better get down there this afternoon.
Right.
Well, that's no big problem. Now, how about
New needs created, new problems faced, new solutions required. The influence of the CL-28 was felt throughout Canadian industry.
We know this casting will be a tough one for you. We have had enough troubles with it ourselves, even on the paper. It has to be strong, yet very light, and it has to fit precisely.
We don't underestimate the difficulty of this one for you, and we'll give you every assistance. Now, do you think that you could have the patterns made, samples checked, and the first production shipment out, say within 6 weeks?
Well, we have some new problems there, but I think we can meet your delivery schedule. We'd like to tackle it, and we'll do our very best for you.
Fine. The order's yours. You get confirmation in the morning.
Thanks, Don. Now let's take another look at this rib section here. This is where we're going to have a bit of trouble.
Finally, materials are stockpiled and machines laid out, as planned on the production flow model. The factory is ready to start. Stretched and formed under tons of pressure, flat sheet metal becomes the shaped wingtip of the plane. The landing gear support bearing takes the shape finally determined for it, accurate to the 1,000th part of an inch. Gears, bars, bearings, engine mountings pour from the presses and lathes. After the start of design and until a military aircraft is completed, tactical needs can sometimes alter. The mock-up is continuously used to check the feasibility of new ideas.
It's quite obvious from your study that the horizon visibility cannot be maintained in the steep angles of bank required by the revised tactical requirements. I've checked the cockpit in the mock-up aircraft, and there's a definite blind spot. An extra window is required in this location. Ev, it's essential that Canadair incorporate this change on all aircraft.
Mike, how far on are we with fabrication?
Well, we have some of the skin panels cut, ready for sub-assembly.
Ray, we must get this modification on the first airplane. Preliminary engineering information can be released in 6 days, with complete detailed drawings released 9 days after that. Don, have we any new tooling involved?
Yeah, it'll take at least 3 weeks to retool.
Don, this is a tough schedule to make. We're going to have to assign a top priority. I want a good toolmaker, a good planner, assigned on a full-time basis to work directly with engineering. The cooperation of all departments is essential.
On the main sub-assemblies, work keeps moving even while modifications are being incorporated. Herbie Brenn's section, things aren't going badly. Not too many rejections. Most components on schedule. The assembly carrying the landing gear support bearing is approved for installation in the forward fuselage. Even the modified cockpit upper window won't hold things up much. It's in time to be fitted into place in the jig. But Herbie Brenn was having some troubles. The windshield casting hadn't arrived yet. If his section was to keep on schedule, he needed that casting, and soon. He'd been telling that to production control every day for a week now. Stan Russell had done all the usual checking, but today he went off to see procurement himself.
Hi, Ed. Uh-oh. Stan, I know what you're after. It must be that windshield frame casting.
Right first time, Ed. Old Herbie Brenn's gonna blow a fuse if we don't get that casting down there pretty soon for him.
Well, that's been a mighty tough job for Robert Mitchell, Stan.
Watson here.
Ed Alden is speaking, Norty.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Oh, not bad. What's new on those windshield frame castings?
Well, we cast 12 more today.
How'd they look?
The first 6 worked in heat treatment.
Oh, for Pete's sake, not again.
Yes, but I think we've got it now. The X-ray plates look good. And if they're all okay, we'll ship them to you on Thursday.
Thanks, Norty. Bye. Well, that looks a lot brighter, Stan. They've promised to ship us good castings on Thursday.
I sure hope they do, Ed.
On Thursday, the castings were delivered. Each one had been checked at Mitchell's before shipment. They were checked again at Canadair for dimensional accuracy, and they were checked again in the laboratory for metallurgical soundness. After being rushed through the plant, the first pair of windshield frames were at last installed on the forward fuselage. The end of one phase in the making of the plane. The end of seeing only bits and pieces of the aircraft, and the beginning of putting the parts together. Wing dihedral angle, 3 degrees exactly. Alignment of the wing to the fuselage, precise to the fraction of an inch. Other major assemblies are brought together on the joining jig with the same minute care. the men who built the subsections see them come together for the first time. With the forward fuselage in position, the shape of the CL-28 airframe finally emerges. But around the test rig, the engineers are still at work, measuring, calculating, double-checking their paper theory. Will the loads transmitted through the support bearing on landing be as calculated? Will the skin around the escape hatch behave as they thought it would?
Stand by. Increase the load. Hold the load for inspection.
In the stretching of aluminum, the buckling of panels, and the straining of rivets, the mathematics of the drawing office are proven on the test rig.
Increase to 50%. Increase to 66%. Increase to 100%. Load.
The structure must not only survive, but go back into shape when the load is released. $100,000 separate parts brought together in 200 major assemblies. Among them, the landing gear assembly hoisted into position and joined to the nose wheel bearing, pretty much as envisaged 2 years before. Other parts and assemblies are joined together. Air screws, the main undercarriage, ailerons, flaps, 60 miles of electrical wiring. Parts from different industries all over Canada, coming together on the final line. "75 tons of metal, rubber, wire, electronic tubes, and plastic are gradually becoming a complex integrated whole. Soon, work is almost finished on the flight deck, on the navigator station, on the dining area and the galley, on the sleeping quarters and rest area, on the main electrical panels, and on the installation and testing of the tactical devices.
Don't forget to look for my tomorrow, yeah. Tomorrow.
Day 725, and the newly named Argus is ready for her first test flight. The product of years of careful planning and of the many skills of 10,000 men, the Argus is borne aloft at last on the invisible ocean of air that is her element. Weeks of test flying would follow, continuous testing on all the intricate systems and mechanisms and their effect on flying characteristics. Finally, 6 months after the preliminary test flight, the first Argus was handed over on schedule to the Royal Canadian Air Force, and a new anti-submarine weapon was available for NATO duty.